Good morning, good morning. So, this morning, from self-doubt to negative self-talk. Now, you may already know that two of the biggest obstacles to real success that most people face is that self-doubt and negative self-talk. It might be like, duh, no-brainer. And it's a problem because we all know what we want to achieve, and we know what we really need to do that. And we know what we need to do to reach our goals. And we know what we need to do, and we know what we need to stop doing. And even though we know all of that stuff, we still don't do it, do we? We can let ourselves get held back by that self-doubt and that negative self-talk, which is one of the most common manifestations of self-doubt, by the way, is that negative self-talk. And that negative self-talk makes us doubt our abilities or question our decisions or second guess ourselves. And having a default to the negative, I know a lot of people who've got that. They just like they say, "Oh, I'm just being careful," but it's they're seeing the cup half full instead of half full instead of half empty, as they say. And because of that, though, people never reach their full potential because they never rid themselves of that self-talk. They never, crush that negative self-talk that's holding them back. And many of us do actually deal with self-doubt on a regular basis, and that's okay because a certain amount of self-doubt is normal and it's actually even healthy. But it becomes a really big problem when that negative self-talk gets too much, gets too loud, and it starts to take over everything. And Sebastian, good morning, and good morning, high-tech weather too. And Sebastian says, my glass is always half full with optimism, half full with oxygen. So that's all it's half full with, Sebastian. Good morning, Mark Sullivan, and good morning, high-tech weather. And so everything can hijack our feelings when it becomes too negative and too loud and too noisy. And it becomes so loud that we start to actually believe the things that we're telling ourselves, and which exacerbates obviously everything even more because it negatively influences our behavior then. And if that's where you find yourself, that's okay, right? First, know that you're not alone. And secondly, know that there is a solution to overcome both of those, self-doubt and negative self-talk. So before I go any further, if this is your first time to MindFit Mornings, welcome. This is our new series for giving you the tools for living life by your own design rather than existing by default. And today's topic is self-doubt and negative self-talk. So I had someone ask me the other day, what is negative self-talk then? And the way I explain it is that it's a form of inner dialogue that's critical and negative and pessimistic, and it's often demeaning. And it's never really very nice, is it? It's like that little voice in your head always telling you that you're not good enough, or you can't do something, or you'll never succeed. It says, don't do that, you'll embarrass yourself. Don't do that, you'll look stupid. And over time, that voice becomes so loud and powerful that it completely takes over, as I've said already, dictating every thought and every decision you ever make. And because of that, people end up living these lives of quiet desperation, never taking risks to do new things at one end of the scale, to battling with feelings of really low self-worth, that so much so that anxiety and depression become major issues at the other end of the scale. And as I said before as well, people just don't reach their full potential because they don't believe they can. And it's such a waste of a life not trying something just because someone else made you doubt yourself, right? And before I go any further there, Barker, I want to say hello to you. People in our own lives constantly raise us to focus on shame rather than self-confidence. They can do, Parker, absolutely. And total anxiety just takes over. It really does. And I do a whole thing on anxiety because it's so unnecessary, but it's where we can find ourselves trapped. I've worked with amazing people who are super smart and super beautiful. I've worked with a Victoria's Secrets model. She was like stunning. I tried to do the whole session without my jaw going, oh my God, imagine looking like that. And but still she doubted herself. And people they put themselves down constantly, and then they get all reactive and defensive and criticize themselves before anyone else gets a chance to. I mean, I used to be guilty of that for sure, that perfectionism thing. We're harsher than anyone else could ever be. So, but a lot of people don't realize they're doing it, and they go all out and get angry and attempt to justify and defend their positions and defend their way of thinking and their associated behavior. And that self-doubt and negative self-talk kicks in big time when people are criticized, because especially actually if people are tonal, tonal people don't actively listen so they can respond to what's being said. Tonal people react defensively the minute they think that what they're hearing is an offensive statement. They can rise to anger in a and frustration in a blink of an eye. And that's when you know, whoa, hang on a second, you didn't even think about what I said. And what's interesting about that behavior when you react defensively to a seemingly offensive statement is that you're not really trying to understand what the other person is saying or why they're saying it. You're not trying to find a way to resolve the conflict in a peaceful and respectful way. And you're not trying to build a relationship with that other person either, because you're not really interested in hearing what they've got to say. This is all unconscious. Unconsciously, you're only concerned with protecting yourself from emotional hurt. And while protecting yourself from getting emotional hurt is a valid reason, and it's enough for reacting defensively to what you think is an offensive statement, but doing so involves you also putting your own needs above the needs of the other person. And that's why defensive reactions are so unproductive, and they often lead to further conflict, right? You get into this massive big argument which goes all over the place, right? And really you're just reacting from all that self-doubt and all that negative self-talk, because when you react defensively, you're not trying to communicate with the other person. You're not trying to understand them or find a way, like I said, to peacefully coexist with them. That negative self-talk and self-doubt is like, boom, it's all reactive now and it's gone. And those defensive reactions are linked to that. Because when we feel threatened or attacked, our first instinct is to go all out and put up a wall to protect ourselves. And that can lead us to feeling that we're not good enough or that we have to prove ourselves to others. We may even start to doubt our own abilities and worthiness. And that negative self-talk is often the result of our past experience, of course, and the messages that we've internalized from those experiences. And I'm going to ask you a question, and I would love you to give me some of your thoughts on that in a second. But because many people accept that that's just the way they are. It's who they are, or it's what they do, or it's just how life is. And they never challenge the validity of any of it. They never go out and question their negative self-talk or their defensive stance on things. They just react and boom. It's like it becomes this massive big problem. And we all know people do that. So I want to ask you, because we all know people who do things because their family and their parents and their siblings or the church did it, for example. So I want to ask you this question. Have you ever reacted defensively to something and then later realized what was being said wasn't actually what you were hearing? And did you ever question yourself and why you reacted that way and get to the bottom of it? And what things do you do or say just because it's your family did it, your church, you heard it at church, or they showed you at church, or the people around you did it? They showed you by what they did. I'd love to hear your comments on that. And Sebastian, joining from Facebook, said, oh, totally. That's how I used to react for a long time. 100%. And you don't even realize you're doing it. You think that's just how it is. And good morning, David Collins. Negative self-talk is a result of parents programming you when you're growing up. It's one of the reasons, but absolutely sure. And one of the ways to change this is to take on and set achievable goals and set these beliefs should be easier. I should lessen over time. That's exactly right. However, it's my belief that this remains in the subconscious, hence the importance of healing core wounds. Absolutely. You have to do the deep work on that, David, and you can lessen the impact it has on you for sure. And it doesn't have to stay there. You can change it. And you have, but awareness. And I've got 6 points that I'll share with you at the end that I've just put together so that people can have a step-by-step process to start doing that. What Victoria's Secret model? Okay, you're one of my best friends from today. She showed me how to dress. Hi, Pamela, representing entire Asia today. Oh, fantastic. I'm sure you do a brilliant job too. Parker says, Adelaide's best son here. Oh, well, I want to be someone's best son and daughter. Tuning in from Melbourne, from down under. Thank you, Sebastian. Awesome. Okay, Mark Sullivan says, some people think the way they react is actually standing up for themselves. They do, absolutely. But you got to understand why you think you need to stand up for yourself, Mark. Because you're obviously thinking you're being attacked. Maybe you're not. But what you're hearing is. So, Sebastian, yeah, accepting the default living is not sure if I'm allowed to say whatever that might be. Cool. All right. So it's important then to remember that negative self-talk, right, is not necessarily accurate or true. And just because you think something doesn't make it true, and you have the power to choose our thoughts and to focus on positive ones instead. So, but that comes with awareness, awareness of when we're coming from a negative place. And when we know that, we can actually start to change the way we think about ourselves. But you need determination and need consistent and constant practice. And with that, you can learn to replace your negative thoughts with positive ones. Develop a habit of reframing, all right, reframing that negative self-talk to create a more positive inner dialogue. And okay, I know it's not always easy, but I just want you to know it's possible. And those 6 points that I was telling you about to show you how you can reframe your self-talk are, by the first one is to acknowledge your thoughts. Okay. And that's the first step to becoming aware of your negative self-talk. When you catch yourself thinking negative thoughts, acknowledge them. Most people try to ignore them and push them away, and they're going, I'm not listening to that. But you're trying to, it's like a bull in a china shop thing. You're trying to do it by mental strength rather than actually understanding why I think like that in the first place. What they're trying to tell me, and getting to the bottom of that rather than just trying to go bullheaded at it. Okay, so that's the first thought. And the second one then is to question them. Do they make sense? Are they really true? I mean, how do you know they're true? What evidence do you have to support the fact that you think they're true? So question your thoughts. And number 3 is to replace your thoughts with positive ones. Yeah, I know. For example, it's not, oh yeah, I'm just going to be Pollyanna. No, you have to do the other work first, right? You have to understand yourself, then you have to question them, and then try and go, okay. So, for example, if I'm thinking I'm not good enough, well, you could try replacing it with something a bit more neutral, like, well, I'm doing my best. Or it feels good to do my best, because it feels good to do my best is a true statement, and it's neutral, and it's not going to activate that inner critic. But you have to be honest there, right? If you're not doing your best, either change that and start doing your best, or stop worrying about the negative voice criticizing you. And High Tech Mother says, yeah, we don't question our thoughts often enough. We just accept them as right. We do. We never know why we're doing what we're doing, or where it came from. And it is a fine line between standing up for oneself or being defensive. And that depends on being confident within our thoughts. You have to know exactly how to, you have to know that what you're doing is for the right reasons, and it's not. And when you trace it back, you go, well, I'm only doing that because, as I was saying Monday, I was a prolific door slammer because my mother was. And when I wrote, that's so uncontrolled. When I got to the bottom of that, it's like I felt out of control when I was doing that. I mean, it felt good inside because I got rid of that pent up frustration, but it really didn't help me grow at all. So practice replacing that. So, and question your thoughts. So number 4 then is to practice self-compassion, because it's important to be kind to yourself. If you make a mistake, you need to understand that it's okay to make a mistake. You're supposed to. Stop beating yourself up and accept that everyone makes mistakes, and then just choose to learn from them. Okay? And then the 5th point I have is about focusing on your strengths instead of dwelling on your weaknesses. And you've all got strengths. We've all got strengths. Okay? You might not see them as strengths. Some people just want to be a good mother. That's a strength. Not everybody wants to be a good mother. So find your strength, no matter how weak you think that strength is. Okay? Find something you're good at or what you enjoy doing and make that your strength. And Sebastian says it's not a mistake if we learn from it. It's a lesson. I think everything's a lesson. No, I know. Doing your thing now, Sebastian. Everything is a lesson. I know that we need adversity to get us out of our comfort zone, to make us sit up and go, oh, hang on, maybe I can do this. Maybe I am better than that. All right. And that's what we need to do. We need to look at all our mistakes and all our learnings as just lessons that we need to have that experience to get us to where we're going. All right. So the 6th point then is to set realistic goals. Right? Make sure your goals are realistic and achievable. Because there's a self-sabotaging thing where you set a goal so big that you're never going to get there. So you can go out there and you wasn't going to get there. You either don't bother or you fail. And then you just reinforce that over and over and over again. By the way, something else that just popped into my mind is when you're listening to that negative self-talk, whoever made you doubt yourself and put that in there in the first place is still winning, right? And you reinforce that every time you listen to it, okay? So set realistic goals and take baby steps, break them down into small manageable pieces, and then be patient, right? Probably the hardest thing of all time, because we live in this time where immediate gratification is rampant, almost expected that when we're doing, when we're constantly chasing after immediate gratification, we can miss out on the bigger picture. Is where I wanted to go with that. And we can become so focused on getting what we want right now that we don't stop to consider what we really need. And Parker says, people make realistic goals as not dreaming big. They do. And that's not the case. It's goals that you sincerely focus on. It is, you can have a big goal. I've got massive goals, but I've also got my interim little goals that I need to do to get me to my big goal. I'm not just focusing on the big goal. That's my end result. And if I do all these little steps in between, I'll get that one. Right? I know where I want to go. I know how I'm going to get there, but now I've got to have a plan to get there, right? So if I want instant gratification and I want that and I don't get it, then, that leads to problems down the road, because I feel like I'm a failure. So it's important to keep your sights set on long term and have the little interim steps and just completely keep eating away at it. Is Sebastian said, is 500 million realistic goal? Absolutely is. Some people have got that in their back pocket right now, Sebastian. Yeah, it's just, well, how are you going to get there? Where do you need to be at 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year to make sure that whatever the date you put that on that goal, that you are there. So don't expect to transform your thinking overnight. Change takes time, right? So stop thinking I want it now and I want it delivered, because we live in that kind of society, like I said, and delay that to gratification, because you'll set yourselves up for a future of greater success if you do. And Parker says you need to be Elon B's. Yeah, that's a fashion. Yeah, absolutely right. And plenty of other people too, So, I did this with my kids, actually, delayed gratification. I gave them they get a bag of lollies on Saturday, so you can eat them all today and you've got none for the week, or you can have one every day, and that's your choice. So to wrap up then, reframe your negative self-talk. And if you tend to focus on your shortcomings and think negative thoughts, or find that you're regularly doubting yourself or putting yourself down, try and immediately catch yourself, stop and reframe, because unless you practice challenging that self-doubt and reframing your negative self-talk, that negative thought and that self-doubt will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So remind yourself that you're capable and valuable and that you deserve to succeed. And it might take some time, obviously, to quiet that negative voice, but I promise you it's worth it. And that's it for me today. And I just want to remind you that if you really want to be successful at anything, you have to believe you're capable and worthy of achieving those goals. Otherwise, you'll never put in the work to take the necessary risk and make them happen. You have to believe in yourself. So I will see you on Friday for Unconscious Commitments and Guilt. Thank you for being here. Be sure to join my online community and subscribe to my YouTube channel. My greatest wish, as always, is to leave you with being MindFit. And be MindFit so you can live your best life. Live it with passion. Reset. Be authentic. And be you. Bye for now.